Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week. It chooses the horror film and they discuss it. Today we're talking about 1994's Branscan, which was directed by John Flynn. I'm your co-host, Alec.
I'm Eric, and with us again, the great Joe Testa. Joe, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been a while,
I
you know.
know.
Well, I was just thinking, if I'm going to come back, it's only going to be for like a true cinematic classic. So that's why we're talking Brain Scan today.
Exactly. No, I'm very excited to talk about this, but I'm also excited because this is the first video episode we've ever done with a guest before. So I think I'm pretty sure, but
I'm pretty sure too. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
really stressed out about that when you told me, but yeah, this is actually normally Jenna's wall, but I put all my stuff over here for today.
Dude, it looks
Leave it
really
up for
good.
work tomorrow. Leave it up for work
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah.
Nah, your background looks amazing. I've just got the movie playing in the background, which luckily is on YouTube, Tubi, it's on everything, so it's just playing there. So, whatever.
Cool.
Yeah. But Brain Scan was a movie that you recommended, Joe, and this came out like prime time for horror child Joe. You were like 12 when it came out?
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I saw it in theaters.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the thing with this one. You're absolutely right. It came out at like just kind of the perfect time for me. I remember my mom, I tried to see this with like one of my friends from school. My mom bought us the tickets and that was a technique that worked for a while. She bought us the tickets and we just go in and see it, but they stopped us this time for Brain Scan.
Really? Oh
Yes.
My
no,
mom,
no.
my mom said I could go. My mom
Yeah,
said I
no,
could
no,
go.
they for whatever reason they weren't falling for that this time. So like the next weekend, my poor grandfather got dragged to see Brain Scan.
Your grandfather has been to so
Yeah.
many
Oh, he
movies.
saw them all. Yeah, he saw them all. But
Oh my God.
yeah, I mean, this one's kind of a special one for me because I feel, I was just consuming everything I could get my hands on as we've talked about many times before. But this one is special because I feel like pre-Scream, a lot of the horror movies I was seeing theatrically, they weren't really about young people.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm sure we could maybe come up with some of them if we tried. But this one especially, like it was about kids only a little bit older than me.
Yeah.
Edward Furlong is actually he was only a little bit older. He wasn't like a 30-year-old playing a 16-year-old,
Right, right.
And what I think was craziest of all is they were horror fans.
Yeah.
They read Fangoria just like I did,
Yeah.
and there's all kinds of little, horror paraphernalia and references peppered in Michael's room and Michael's room is like my all-time
Oh, it's
favorite
that in the
movie
Hey Arnold
bedroom.
room. It's that in the Hey
Okay.
Arnold
Yeah.
room. Like
Yeah,
that was
there's
the coolest room. You must have dreamed about that. Like I
oh
want
that
that room.
it's all I ever wanted. Absolutely. I mean there's a few cool horror bedrooms like the Kid in Creep Show. Um
Friday the 13th, part four.
yeah,
Corey
yep,
Feldman's got a
yep.
pretty cool room.
There's a bunch, but Brain Scan's number one for me, and because Edward Furlong, he was a little bit older than me, and like
Yeah.
he listened to cool music. I didn't really listen to music yet. It just everything about him was cool. I don't know about if that still holds up, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and just while we're on the subject, like I always thought Edward Furlong had a pretty fascinating career.
Hmm.
Like, Terminator 2, obviously. And then he goes and does Pet Cemetery 2.
Yeah.
Like, I just always was really interested in how and why his agents made that decision.
We could
But
talk Edward Furlong all night. Like that
yeah.
guy he should write a book.
Mhm.
I don't know if he has, but I would read that book like if he actually wrote it and it wasn't like fudged up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I have a quick question for you, Joe, though. So at the time, this is like Goosebumps is popular and Are You Afraid of the Dark? Was that too childish for you, even though it was targeted at a 12
You
year
know,
old?
I hate to sound like such a, like
I just mentioned Hey Arnold's room, Alec. I
yeah,
literally did that. So sorry, Joe.
yeah. I mean, I hate to be like, Yeah, I was so beyond that, but I kind of was.
Right, right.
Yeah, no, I wasn't watching Goosebumps or reading Goosebumps. I was like trying to read Stephen King. And I was watching pretty much whatever I wanted as we've talked about many times and reading Fangoria.
Yeah.
Um, but there was some cool stuff coming out around that time. Like I only recently got introduced by my wife to Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I think that was
Mm,
great. That was so
yeah.
good.
Eric's a
Big,
huge fan.
huge.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
so many
Mhm.
memorabilia things to show you soon,
Mhm.
man. We'll
Yeah.
we'll talk about it. I'll
It
text you like
is.
crazy.
I think Eric and I loved it because we were younger than you. So like, we were like 7 when that's coming out.
Yeah.
So it's like really scary.
Mhm.
But yeah, Edward Furlong's career, really impressive, really sad, in those few short years. But Pet Cemetery 2 was like a nice gap, like a bridge the gap between like 80s horror and 90s horror, and then even into this, you
Look at
know?
this, Alec.
Oh, there
VHS.
you go.
Orange VHSs. Remember those bad boys?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The Nickelodeon ones. Look at you.
Still works.
I love how that's like within like reaching distance.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm kind of embarrassed by that, but we'll moving on. Brain scan.
but yeah, Edward Furlong, yeah, we'll get into him. It is sad what happened to him. I mean, great hair, but career just yeah, took a dip.
Yeah.
Hey man, he owns it. Like every panel I've seen him on, I watched a ton after this too. There was one with Linda Hamilton, Michael Biehn, and he was just like, yeah, it was my first movie, Terminator 2, and he had Terminator 3 in his hands, but then he had a cocaine overdose in
Yeah.
a club and lost the deal, and they got someone else to play John Connor, and that was like dropping the bag so hard with money. And he's like, yeah, things happen. It's like, damn, you are handling that so well, and I gotta give him credit,
Yeah,
you
he
know.
does seem to be in better spirits these days. I don't know, hopefully he's kind of cleaned himself up. I know he's had a lot of
He,
demons.
he has at least one kid too, and he's
Mhm.
like totally like talking about him all the time. Like, yeah, my kid's really into Metallica and stuff. So I feel like, but like that Linda Hamilton panel, it's like they're all dressed up really nice, and he's just wearing like a Black Sabbath shirt and vaping his face off the entire. It's like, man, present yourself a little bit, all right? Like people are paying to see you.
Yeah.
I was also surprised, Joe, you said you saw this in theaters. I would have thought this would have gone straight to VHS. This kind of seemed like it would.
It was that strange time where, like, if you go through my Fangorias from that time, like, if you're looking at the cover stories, like, month after month, you'd probably be like, "What the hell is this stuff?"
Yeah.
And some of it was going direct to video, but yeah, a lot of it was going theatrical. And I think you'd probably be surprised by a lot of horror movies at the time. Like the pre-Scream horror movies, they were almost more like they were just as much cult movies as they were horror movies.
Mm.
And this one is especially strange because it's also kind of science fiction.
It's science fiction, but it's also like leans into video games like
Mm,
hard. And I think like the teen video game craze with like Mortal Kombat and arcades and like Sega Genesis taking like video games to like the bloody level. And it's funny because we're all from Connecticut. Joseph Lieberman from Connecticut in 1993 was the guy that established the ESRB, which was the rating system for video games. So I
mhm.
just thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, this game I think really captures that like Bart Simpson, just kind of like bad kids that like to play video games and read comic books and listen to this kind of music. Not that they're bad kids. I would have been one of those kids, I think they're cool. But I really think this captured a very specific kind of person. Horror club kids.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, Edward Furlong's character invented Alexa essentially with the Igor thing. So it's
Oh,
just like
yeah.
how he's not a bad kid. He's really smart and
No.
clearly like any company would hire him literally at that time to do their computers and stuff.
Yeah, he had a tragedy that happened. He lost his mother in a car accident when he was young, and then that seems to be what has, kind of changed the course of his life, and he's become this, just very withdrawn, uh, kind of slacker who really just wants to spend his time, watching horror movies, playing video games. He has one friend and he has a crush on a girl who he doesn't want to actually interact with. He is much happier just staring at her and recording her
Dude,
through his window.
that was weird. Like
Yeah,
our protagonist is like literally filming a girl getting
yeah,
undressed,
yeah.
and yeah,
And
That,
calls her at a moment when he knows like she's gonna be, you know what I mean? That was like,
yeah.
whoa, dude, you're creepy.
Well, that's actually something I want to get into that. I think this movie is very concerned with how likable Michael is. And they do things to make sure he doesn't kind of cross the line because even in that scene, like she's aware. She's
yeah.
aware she's being filmed. So I think that's the little back and forth there. They want to make sure you don't turn on him. And I actually have another example of that later on in the movie that I'd like to get into.
The thing is, if he wasn't filming it, I feel like it wouldn't be as creepy. It's still kind of creepy
Yeah.
if you have like binoculars, but it's not, I don't know, the filming thing, because it's like, what are you gonna do with this, man? Like, but yeah, so that's how we're introduced to this character. Also, his father is like this, we assume kind of like rich salesman or something like that. Like he's
Mhm.
away. So he's living in this like huge house by himself with all this money and can kind of do whatever he wants. And yeah, it's funny, Eric, that he invented like Alexa before Alexa. And it reminded me of that movie Blank Check. Do you guys remember that movie from like it
Oh
was
yeah.
also 1994, I
That might
think.
be a little you were too old, Joe, for that
But
Yeah,
maybe.
you
that is too
weren't
tame.
though. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
you
it
weren't
was
though.
literally made for my age group, but too tame, too
Yeah, but
tame.
it's like a kid who's like becomes a millionaire and has all this cool technology that's like ahead of its time and like so obviously that's the kid version of this, but it reminded me a lot of that.
Like Richie Rich too, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's cool. But yeah, yeah.
Well, just jumping into the plot a little bit then. So yeah, we do see Edward Furlong's mother die in the beginning in this car crash, and then yeah, he's spying on his next door neighbor. He goes to school. Does he go to school first, or does he talk about brain scan first? Do we find out
I
he's in the
think,
horror club?
yeah, he's in school and he has this horror club, which his principal is very against and essentially closes it down.
Yeah, and they're watching a movie called like Death, Death, Death Part Two. Like it's just so funny.
I think they could have come up with a better name for that movie. I'm not positive if that is. I think that is a real movie. I'm pretty sure that's not the name
Yeah.
of this movie. But the chat with the principal always kind of stuck with me because like you said, this is coming out at a time where video games are very controversial. Mortal Kombat's around this time. And, I feel like I probably repeat it a lot when we talk about movies during this time, but I think it's worth putting things into context. Horror movies were very controversial at this time. They were
Yeah.
considered, they were kind of considered dangerous,
Hmm.
and I think things have changed so much. I don't think people think of horror movies the same way these days. So I think it is worth repeating, the environment this movie is coming out in and how this principal probably feels and like he asks Michael like why do you like these movies
Yeah.
and that's people asked me that as a kid and what they were actually saying was is there something wrong with you
Are
that's
you okay? Are you okay?
exactly
Yeah.
Yeah.
and seeing that dramatized in a movie was really interesting it's actually a similar kind of scene in the original Salem's Lot, where the
Hmm.
dad asks the kid who also has an awesome room. He's like, like, aren't you gonna grow out of this stuff? Or when are you gonna grow out of this? But I probably didn't see Salem's Lot till later. So it was interesting. It was interesting watching this movie.
I feel like it's the
Now
equivalent
and
of people into astrology. If you're into astrology, I'm like, are you okay? You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
are you
yeah.
okay?
Well, back then, yeah. I mean, and I was into it. It wasn't a as you guys know, it wasn't a casual interest. I was as into it as Michael. So people had those conversations with me.
Well, there's a part of it where like people think that way, and it's not wrong, but there's a kind of thing to it, taboo kind of. But
Hmm.
so it's the same thing with me and Alec in South Park. It was fun to watch, knowing how bad it was
Hmm.
because people were like, "This is so wrong," and it's our favorite show 30 years later, pretty much. And
Hmm.
yeah, so I don't know.
It's funny you say that though, Joe, too, because like I loved I still love video games. I know Eric, you did too, to a degree as well. But like I remember too when I was young, this girl asked me because she knew I love video games, and she's like, why do you like them, and do you like the ones that are more gory more? And I was like, not necessarily, but like she couldn't really wrap her head around it. And I think the scene with this teacher, it's kind of like an old person's view of a technology they have no understanding of, where like today a politician has played video games before. They know that it's not the reason there's, murder. Same thing with like horror movies. They become so popular where this guy is talking about like marijuana cigarettes and like what you're watching pornographic films and getting erections and then going to rape
Yeah.
women. Like
Yeah.
it's such a crazy, like
Yeah.
the way he presented.
It escalates really quickly. Yeah.
Dude. Dude, yeah, I know. It's like goes from weed to like rape. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But he sounded like a Reefer Madness character, you
Hmm.
know? And today I feel like, a 40-year-old would be like, nah, I played video games when I was a kid, or I've seen,
Right.
Friday the 13th. It's like these kids
Exactly.
are fine. But
Hmm.
yeah, these guys are like 50s mentality kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. Like the EC comic scare, like that would have been his reference.
Yeah.
Um, but I actually think, getting back to Furlong, I think he's really good in this movie. As good as he needs to be. I think, during those intense scenes later with Trickster, I think he's convincing, and I just think his kind of cold, withdrawn, you know, Gen X slacker vibe is I think it's good. I think this character could have been insufferable in the
Mhm.
wrong actor's hands. For me,
No,
I'm
no.
gonna do this for the first time in Wheel of Horror history. I'm gonna disagree with you, Joe.
that's
I feel
totally fine. And look,
I
I
agree to disagree with a couple of points, but another you go
I
first.
just
Sorry.
want to say, like, again, this movie, I can't be, like it's a part of my childhood. So
Yeah.
like I see
Time
it
out.
through rose-colored glasses. So you guys feel free to,
No,
give me
time out,
your
time
take
out.
on
I
it. Yeah.
disagreed with you up until you said I can't picture another person in this role. And now that clicked where I was like, you know what? Edward
Oh
Furlong was
God.
perfect for this role. But I felt like he was just not great. I always thought he was a great actor. In Terminator 2 is great. Pet Sematary, I thought he was better in that than this, honestly. I know it's a bold statement. But also I saw him in what's it called? Like grass or grape something. Forgot what it was called. What was the movie? Hold on one
The
second.
only other one I've seen him in is probably American History X. I know he
What
did
He was
what
some
in,
work.
about
he,
Detroit Rock City?
I
yeah,
never saw
he's
it.
good in that. He's good in that. He was in this
Oh.
Yeah.
movie with Piper Laurie and Sissy Spacek where he was really good. But like this movie, I feel like he just didn't want to be there.
I know he did a movie with John Waters, Pecker. Is it
Hmm.
Pecker?
Yeah, something like that.
Which I've never seen either.
I haven't seen that
No.
either, but I have a quote, and I sent this to Alec and Mike, the guy who does our marketing, and uh, I'm going to read something from the director. We found the stage actor T. Ryder Smith to play the trickster, and he was extraordinary. Eddie Furlong was a 15-year-old kid who couldn't act. You had to slap him awake every morning. I don't want to get into knocking people, but I was not a big Eddie Furlong fan. He was deep into drugs at this time. He started when he was 13, and this
Wow.
movie he was deep into the drugs. So he was probably strung out half the time in this movie.
I believe it. There is an unpolishedness to him that I respond to.
Hmm.
Um, he's just to me, he's very obviously not a trained actor, and I think he finds a way to make that work for him. He doesn't do much, just in a kind of way that kind of I love him, a kind of a Keanu Reeves. He does what he
Yeah.
does,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he usually keeps it minimal, and that's what he does.
Joe,
That's
is it because he also played the Crow Is it because he
Oh my
goes?
God. I know, I totally forgot. I literally blanked that out of my head. Of course he did.
Edward
But
Furlong did?
Like the
let's not even
fourth or
talk
fifth
about it.
Oh,
crow.
The
Yeah.
all
fourth. Yeah.
right, all
Yeah.
right,
Holy shit. I literally
all right.
forgot about that.
But Alec, you sent me that great video of him and Kyle reuniting, and they did like a short interview. And he was like, I barely remember shooting that movie because I think he was on
Yeah.
drugs throughout the
Yeah.
filming. But I read the comment section to that, and that's what also stuck out to me was people were like, "Love this movie, Eddie, you're the man." People really root for Edward Furlong. One, two, the comments were like, "Anytime this movie was on TV, I'd call my friend, and by the end of the movie, we had 12 people watching it, like because everyone would call each other to watch Brain Scan," which I thought was like, I got to find the comment. I'll screenshot it and send it to you guys. It was like, yeah, I love that kind of fan base.
That's funny. I do feel like this movie kind of fell into obscurity for a long time
Mm.
and is kind of in more recent years being, rediscovered. I bought the Blu-ray from Screen Factory that came out a few
Oh
years
wow.
back that has a lot of nice special features. But yeah, I do feel like people are rediscovering or discovering it for the first time, and it's just kind of a fun 90s relic, you know?
I think I figured out why it's not too popular. The word brain scan, when you type it in, it's going to be the medical, terms like that pops up first. So it's
Yeah.
not when it's named something else that's like very searchable, I feel like it gets hurt a
Yeah,
little.
I think there's a better title for sure. You mentioned T. Ryder Smith. Now he is a trickster. I think it's safe to say they did attempt to create a new horror icon
Yeah.
with Trickster, which understandable. No, this is like in the early 90s, Freddie and Jason are getting a little long in the tooth. Maybe try to make a new one. But quick story about T. Ryder Smith.
Oh yeah.
He was a teacher at the school I attended in New
Oh.
York after high school.
Mm, that's cool. What did he teach?
So he taught acting. So it was a
Oh.
school for the performing arts.
He's a trained actor.
Absolutely. But he wasn't one of my teachers. So I
Mhm.
would just see him in the hall, and I knew it was him, even though he looks nothing like, his character in the
Right,
movie.
right.
But I was like, holy shit, that's Trickster. And one day I go back to Connecticut and I dig out my Fangoria with Trickster on the cover.
Uh,
And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bring this to school. When I see him, I'm going to show him. I don't think I want an autograph or anything. I just want to show him because I was a big fan of the movie. And, I at that point, like, I hadn't, maybe I had been to like one horror convention, but meeting people from these movies was not as easy as it is today. You know,
right.
long story short, this is a bit anticlimactic. I never do it. I never do it because I didn't want him to think I was like calling him out. Like, especially 20 years ago, you never knew how people felt, about horror. If they were in horror movies, if like it almost made me think of that scene from Billy Madison with the principal was the revolting blob in another life and like they're
Right.
blackmailing him. I
Yeah.
didn't want him to think like, Mr. Smith, I know about your past,
Right.
So I never talked to him about it, but there's a nice interview with him on the Blu-ray, and he seems perfectly, like a perfectly nice guy and totally cool with the role. So
So you didn't go up to him and were like, "Hey, can you sign this picture of your face?" You
I
did?
never spoke to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would see him in the hallways occasionally, but yeah, he wasn't one of my teachers. So I
Did you
was just
know,
like,
Alec, you had a teacher that was in the Warriors, correct?
And the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
oh yeah, I know exactly who that is.
Yeah. That was my acting teacher in New York
Yeah,
for a while. Yeah, Tom.
that's awesome.
Um, but Trickster's definitely the best part of this movie. I mean,
Yeah.
like he's the only thing that's really kind of unique, I feel like. And he's like a good bad guy. Like, he's kind of like Freddy where he's like funny, and he's like actually coaxing people into doing terrible things, but I never was like afraid of him really.
Yeah.
I kind of just like thought he was fun.
He's on Edward's side. He's on Michael's side.
Mhm.
He's like, "Hey, play the game. Let's have fun, buddy."
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I think if they
why?
wanted him to be the next Freddy, though, you had to find more for him to do. You
Yeah.
needed like a proper climax, a proper confrontation with him at the end.
Yeah.
Like they needed to, yeah, they needed to go further with that character if they really wanted him to kind of take off. As it is, he like steals every scene he's in, but I don't think he's in it quite enough.
Mm,
The CGI was cool, and also the practical effects with him when he's like one by one by
Hmm.
one, and I mean when
Which
he
feels
first,
so Freddy.
yeah.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
cutting his
yeah,
So
fingers
Freddy.
off. Yeah.
100%. But
Yeah.
like how he enters throughout he comes out of the TV and
Mhm.
that was the best shot of the movie with the
Mhm.
CGI in
Yeah.
my opinion. But
Well, let's jump into the plot a little bit, because this really reminds me a lot of Videodrome and just the
Mhm.
way that the technology, makes people hallucinate and do things that they didn't know they were doing, kind of like being programmed. So it really reminded me of that. And the way that after Michael goes to the school and gets in trouble and all that stuff, he finds out about this video game, Branscan. And he's like, I've played every video game. I know I'm not afraid of anything. And his friend Kyle is like, dude, you got to play this one. You got to call. It's Fangoria magazine, right? It's like the Fangoria.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you got to order this game through that. And then, who knows what'll happen. So Michael gets it in the mail, and it's kind of like this thing that it's not a video game. It just gets,
it's a CD-ROM. It's for a
yeah,
computer.
yeah, but there's no control or anything. He
Right.
just puts it in, sits down, all of a sudden it's just like, and he just gets like
Yeah.
shot in the face with it.
Brain scans them.
Yeah, I guess it
Yeah,
essentially hypnotizes you, right?
yeah.
That's what we're to believe.
Yeah, I guess I just kind of whatever, but I just kind of thought it'd
Mhm.
be fun if he held a controller in his hand or if he had like a keyboard or something. It didn't feel like it needed to be a video game, you
Well,
know?
it's interesting you say that because I remember a while back, the writer of this movie, who went on to be a big screenwriter, he wrote
Hmm.
Seven, Andrew Kevin
Oh.
Walker, I think is his name. He
Oh
wrote Seven,
shit.
he wrote Sleepy Hollow.
Oh.
I remember on his website, he has his original screenplays. And I didn't finish it, but I started Brain Scan. And in his original script, it isn't a game, it's a VHS tape.
Oh.
Yeah, he's essentially looking for like the most extreme kind of horror. Like he's seen everything. He wants something. He wants to see if he can, see the worst kind of thing.
Hmm.
And that's what brain scan is. And in the script, it's a tape. I'd imagine, in the 90s, like you said, video games are kind of a big thing. There's so many like cyber thrillers in the early 90s. Lawnmower Man comes to mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess they just decided it would be more hip or, something the kids
Yeah,
could
it
relate
relates
to.
to the generation or
Hmm.
demographic.
Makes it even weirder though that it's still not there's no
Yeah,
controller or
he
anything.
doesn't do anything. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. But whatever. So then Trickster's face comes on the screen and he's just like, you're gonna play the most intense game, Michael. You've got 3 hours and you're gonna kill somebody. And Michael's like, I've killed a million people in video games. He's like, not like this.
Mhm.
So he literally has like a seizure, basically. Like the lights just flash and he just kind of gets like taken into this world and but it looks like the regular world, but he's just in
Mhm.
front of a house. And am I
Mhm.
crazy or is this guy that he kills in this house, that's just a random guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
I was thinking it was going to be I don't know, like somebody that I missed or the teacher or something. But yeah, some random dude goes in there and he has Trickster telling him what to do. He's like, kill this guy, slice his throat, and do all this stuff. And he fights back a little bit, but he's like, cut off his foot. Why do
Hmm.
you think he needed these trophies? Because that continues throughout it, but he's like, collect the foot as a trophy.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. It is this kind of motif where after every time he finishes the playing the disc, he goes and checks his freezer and he has a different kind of trophy in there.
Yeah.
I don't know, but if we could flash forward a little bit to the when he plays the second disc, it's interesting, and I think it goes back to like the filmmakers being scared to make Michael unlikable. When he finishes the first disc, he wakes up from killing the guy and he's exhilarated. It's like it was fun for him,
Yeah.
but when he wakes up the second time, he doesn't remember what he did. And that's when he killed his best friend Kyle
Yeah.
because, Trickster thinks his friend is a threat. But he wakes up and he doesn't remember doing it. And I just feel like that's the filmmakers worrying were going to turn against Michael. And I feel like you could have made this movie darker. I don't know if it would have been better, but there's a darker version of this movie where brain scan becomes like an addiction. Like
Well,
he loves it. He can't stop, But
Mm.
that would be a much darker movie with a much darker ending probably. And they just don't seem to want to go there.
the actor who played Kyle, I watched interview. It wasn't the one you sent me, Alec. It was actually another one where they're on the street, and he said there was actually a scene where they were planning to show Michael killing him, like actually showing Michael doing it, but the producers decided to cut it. So that was planned. That was
Yeah.
supposed to be in there, but
Hmm.
That was lame.
budget and all that, who knows?
That was so lame they didn't show that. You just like he just opens the refrigerator and Kyle's little necklace is there, and you're like, okay, I guess he killed him. But like they should have showed that or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And there's
But
no good reason why he wouldn't remember doing it.
yeah, because
Right.
you remember the first disc. That's a great
Right.
point, Joe. So
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
like that kind of, yeah, it kind of makes it a not a plot hole, but kind of muddies it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't love the trophy thing because it's like, you'll have witnesses and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, he's like leaving these, he's taking things with him. Like obviously,
Hmm.
there's going to be witnesses and more of a reason to investigate now. So
Yeah.
it was a little
Did he remember though, or was he like, no, no, please tell me I didn't do it, and then he checked the fridge? I'm trying to remember. Was he
He
like didn't
he like
remember and then just like, what did I do last
he
night?
wakes up and he's like, "Oh my God, I played." It's almost like he was
Oh,
not in his right mind. Maybe they
it
should
w
have made him like be drunk
oh
or
no, no,
something,
he should have woke up like, did no, please tell me this didn't happen. I didn't do
Yeah.
it. I didn't do it.
But
And
he
then
doesn't have any memory. He doesn't indicate any
yeah,
memory of killing his friend.
that's kind
Yeah.
of the muddy part. I
Yeah.
agree.
But Kyle is the only character in this movie that's like actually like having fun. Like everybody else is pretty morose and all that stuff. And this guy's like right out of Wayne's World or like
Yeah.
Beavis and Butthead or something. Like
Yeah.
he feels like a fish out of water in this movie.
Yeah,
But
yeah, like a Bill and Ted or something
yeah.
like that. It total, yeah, 90s archetype.
What's so crazy though is Edward Furlong is 16. That guy is 28 when they made this movie. Dude, like he doesn't look 28 and he definitely doesn't act
No,
28. But yeah, I looked him up. He's the same age as my dad. And I
He's
was
best
like,
that's
friends. He's
hilarious.
best friends with a 15-year-old. That's kind of cool.
well, and
Like,
yeah, and in real life. But the other
yeah.
thing is, I watched the one of the interviews with that actor, and he was just like, "Dude, me and the teacher, that actor, we went out and got fucked up one night." He's like, "That guy
Yes.
was not like that character. Like, we went out and got shit. We finished a bottle of vodka in his room.
Yeah.
Like,
And then they went out, and yeah, yeah, I saw that. And he's like, I can't remember his name. I think he passed away. It's
yeah,
like, dude, come
yeah,
on. Like,
yeah."
you don't
So
even
he's like,
remember that?
he definitely is like, yeah, 28-year-old playing a 16-year-old. I'm like, okay, but it worked for some reason. I didn't question it when I was watching it. But yeah, so he's
Very
pissed
likable
off.
character and a very good friend too. It felt like though,
Yeah, that their whole thing
like
is best buddies forever. Like,
Oh
yeah.
man. And let me say, like I thought, Edward Furlong especially was like the coolest character. But when they high five and say "buddies forever," no, 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 no. Like, I mean, if they were like 10, maybe,
yeah.
but they're like almost 17, like buddies forever.
And knowing this
No,
guy's 28 too, it's like,
yeah, I never liked
Yeah.
that. That was always weird.
yeah. And he's got a crush on his next door neighbor. So there's a couple kids. I mean, there's not really a lot of people. His only friend is Kyle. And Kyle's probably like, dude, this is awesome. Like, you got this mansion and no parents. Like, let's fucking party. And Amy, or not Amy, that's the actress, Amy Hargraves, but the girl next door, she's throwing parties and stuff like that. And I guess for some reason Edward Furlong's not invited or whatever. But there is one weird scene where Edward Furlong goes over to this girl's house and he's like, "Hey, I want to ask about, or can I ask like Katie or whatever her name is out?" And they are so weird to him. Like the parents are like, it feels like a horror movie, but you're like, why? Because they never explain what's up with these parents. But they're really rude and standoffish, right?
Yeah, and I think they're just trying to communicate what a kind of misfit Michael is perceived to be,
Mm,
like I think he has that limp that that's from the accident and that probably didn't help his social status in school. And even like when the cops go visit him later and they're like, we've been asking about you, and they call you strange and they call you a freak, and you
yeah.
know he I think we are to believe that Michael is a kind of
He's got baggage.
yeah,
He's got
yeah.
baggage.
He's got baggage, and people think there's something off about this guy.
They needed to make him look a little weirder because he's a good-looking kid. He dresses cool. I mean, like, I didn't buy it. I'm like, this guy would
Yeah,
probably have more friends, and
I
like,
mean,
yeah,
hey, hang out with this kid. He's like the next Steve Jobs
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Like at the same time.
Again, there's a darker movie to be made here. Like I don't know if you've ever seen Fade to Black.
no.
Which is yeah, it's kind of a it might be late 70s of just kind of a horror obsessed. It's worth checking out. Just a horror obsessed kind of young nerdy kind of guy. Doesn't look like Edward Furlong, and he ends up becoming a criminal. I was thinking about it while watching this movie, and that's kind of a much darker version of what we have here. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, this movie never really wants to go there. I was actually thinking, it wouldn't take too much editing to make this kind of a are you afraid of the dark kind of thing. It's not
Mm.
overly violent,
There's an Are
you
You
know.
Afraid of the Dark episode very similar to
I'm
this.
sure. I'm
So
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, the next after the weird parents interaction, he never ends up seeing the girl because he sees on the news that they're talking about this murder in the town, and he's like, "Oh shit, like that really happened," sort of thing. And then Kyle's like, "Dude, there was a murder in our town," and he's just like, "Oh my God, can I play brain scan?" He's like, "No, no, no, like go away. I have mono." Shuts the door, and then Trickster's like, "Yeah, like you got to play all four discs, or else something happens. I don't know."
Where does the foot come into play? Doesn't he go in the fridge and find the foot?
That
Or
was yeah, that was I think right before
for the
after
second
this.
disc.
Oh no,
It was
that's
before
yeah, yeah, it's right around this scene. He remembers Trickster said, make sure you put it in a safe place, and he
Right.
goes and checks his freezer.
Yeah, so then the foot's there. Trickster comes out again. He's like, "You got to play disc two and take care of the
Witness.
witness from the first night," which is like, who saw him? It
Hmm.
definitely wasn't Kyle.
Yeah.
But they make it seem like okay, it was Kyle. So then, yeah, the
Well,
second disc.
Trickster does admit that he wasn't a witness in the strictest sense, but he knew things about Michael. Like just he knows Michael better than anybody,
Mm.
so he would be the one that the cops go to, so he should be eliminated.
Oh
we gotta give 2 seconds to like thought out foot. He's in the woods, tries to bury it, and dog shows up. That scene was like so unnecessary. Like
There's two scenes in this movie where Edward Furlong is hiding from people by just laying in grass, and somehow they don't see him. He just like lays down. There's like
in the
one
middle of the
branch.
woods,
Yeah.
this guy's walking his dog. I'm thinking in Connecticut, I'm like, there's ticks everywhere, first of all. And like I'm just like, why is this guy walking his dog in like not a path? I don't know. It was insane.
Well, the detective that's looking for him the whole time is that Frank Langella guy,
Hmm.
Well,
and
he's also showing up to these like investigations and stuff. He's showing
uh,
up at the crime scene. So he's like, why is this kid showing up at the crime scene? You know?
yeah, so he's got this guy on his trail, and he sees Edward Furlong. He's following him, and he's basically like, "Yeah, this is a creepy guy." And same as you were saying, Joe, earlier, he goes to the school and interviews a bunch of kids. So this
Hmm.
guy's on his trail. He's been in a bunch of movies. He
Oh
was in
yeah.
Frost Nixon. He's Nixon in that.
He
Um,
was a great Dracula,
yeah.
and my favorite, he was Skeletor in Masters of the Universe.
Oh, he voiced the one from the 80s?
No, he was in the costume. Oh,
Oh.
in the movie, in the live action movie. Yeah.
Oh.
Hmm.
Jeez. Oh my God, I've never seen. Is that one from the 80s?
Oh yeah,
I,
87.
I thought that
Okay.
was Maria Shriver. Ba-doom-tsh.
Harry. So yeah, so there's this big actor that's like, running after Edward Furlong, and his character gets crazy at the end. We'll get there. So now he's killed Kyle, he's killed some random dude, and Trickster's like, all right, like, disc three, what's going on? We got three discs. And he like cuts Edward Furlong and makes him like drip all this blood on the counter, which makes the third disc, that was pretty cool. I like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
But what was the third person he had to kill?
The third mission
Is
it wasn't a murder. He left footprints outside of Kyle's house. So
Yeah.
I would imagine the cops would have taken pictures of that, but he goes and like messes up the footprints. But there's also a like neighborhood watch
Yeah.
with kind of rednecks with guns
Oh
walking
yeah.
around the woods,
Yeah.
and then someone ends up getting killed by mistake.
And I love
The
that.
Oh, and the principal gets killed as well.
Wait, I don't remember the principal getting killed.
Yeah, the principal runs into Michael, and they get into like a little scuffle, and then in like there's like a house under construction, and some bricks fall on the principal.
Oh, that's right. That's
Mhm.
right. Yeah,
unintentional,
Yeah,
I
but
love
yeah.
that the scene with the detective just like if I find anybody with like even a water gun, I'm gonna
yeah,
confiscate it and
yeah.
arrest you. That was
It's like we're here to help, man. Like,
yeah. Now get
like I
to
love that
work.
scene.
Yeah.
It's a
Frank Langella,
certain
he must have been in a slow point in his career to take this role, but I like him in all the scenes that he's in. And I like this scene too. Like it's kind of ratcheting things up. Like he's like, I'm not gonna kill anybody,
Right.
just gonna get rid of this clue, and then like two more people end up dying.
But like the detective's like, wait, so the kid who's been showing up at the first crime scene, the murder that just happened like 2 days ago, his best friend just died? It's like, yeah, it's definitely him.
Yeah.
So like, it's so like, yeah, something's up with this kid.
But also, Trickster telling him, be like, hey, you left footprints there. It's like, well, he is my best friend. I don't think that's that strange.
Well, it was right outside his window, and I guess yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he
But
could just be like, yeah, dude, I like, that's how I get into his window.
yeah,
I don't know. Like, he's my best friend. I just sneak over there all the time. But
yeah.
yeah, he didn't do that.
Mhm.
So then the final, so he like comes out, Edward Furlong comes out of this after, this third night or whatever. But then he like goes immediately into a dream of going to like his next door neighbor's house, right? I was super confused at first. I was like, wait, what are we doing at the next door neighbor girls?
Well, she sees what the hell's her name? Kimberly?
I think
I
that
think
is
that's her
it.
name. Yeah.
Amy or Kimberly, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
Amy's a real name, yeah.
Kimberly. It's Kimberly.
But she sees him coming back from the third
Oh, right,
the
right.
third mission. She sees him, and there is almost a sense, I feel like, where he's like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to kill her next.
But like, why? It's like she can't read his mind.
Witnesses were
Yeah.
What
part of the
a
disc.
witness to what? Him coming home? Like
Yeah,
he
yeah.
Just knowing that disc could exist for the trickster. I don't
like
know.
she doesn't know anything. She's like, hey, Michael's like, oh hey, I just got off home from work. Like, like she
Yeah,
doesn't know
yeah.
anything.
Witness. Like
Yeah. I guess the cops would be like, did you see anything strange last night to her, and she could say, well, Michael was wandering into his, I don't know.
To his
Yeah,
own
it's not that
house.
suspicious. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
suspicious.
But this scene I didn't like. I feel like this is where the movie really lost me because I was like, okay, I feel like they're gonna really like it's all gonna make sense at the end. And this scene just kind of made it feel like, okay, what? So Kimberly's at her house, Edward Furlong goes in, they start like making out, taking off her clothes, and then Trickster comes no, then the detective comes in and he's just like takes out a gun and
Mm,
shoots.
yeah, you're fast forwarding a little
Oh,
bit.
sorry, sorry, sorry.
don't
What
forget,
happened?
No,
don't
that's
forget, he also recorded himself doing all this too.
Right, right.
He's like, I want to know if people are listening right now, if this is real. Remember that scene?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
There's a weird scene of him like she's straddling him and they're making out, and then she becomes the first guy that
Oh,
he killed.
yeah.
Like I mean, it's like a scene out of
But
just a
that was a
brief
real
Nightmare on Elm
dream.
Street kind of
That was a
scene.
real
Yeah,
dream,
yeah,
though. That
yeah.
wasn't a
That was a
disc.
dream. Yeah,
Yeah.
but then yeah, I mean, there isn't too much more. I mean, Trickster essentially says, you got to take care of the last witness. Um, and yeah, they have a little back and forth, and then yes, Michael heads over there and is going to kill her, but then changes his mind, turns on Trickster. They have a fight. And there's a really interesting deleted scene. I don't know if you guys discovered that in your research,
No.
but like there's all this kind of CGI, trickery happening where if they're kind of merging. Um, Originally, they were going to merge into this very practical puppet that looked like something out of The Thing. That's like Trickster and Edward Furlong just kind of smashed together, and it was going to
Huh.
attack Kimberly. And maybe, the deleted scene is very rough. Maybe if it was properly edited with music and lighting, maybe it could have been cool.
Yeah.
Um, as it is, it's
Joe,
weird. It's
did you
weird.
watch the interview Alex sent us with Eddie and
Yeah.
Kyle? That
Yep.
he says that, and Edward's like, I had no idea we shot that,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
something
No,
like
he's
that.
he's
Like,
so out of it. Yeah.
Well, the
But
CGI looked pretty bad. I mean,
yeah.
it's 94, so it's
It's
okay.
94, and I feel like I give it a pass because it's the movie's supposed to be about a video game, and it's like it's
Mm,
not supposed to be like organic, like
it's
so
only like a $4 million budget too. This isn't Terminator money.
yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
isn't crazy Jurassic Park money either. So it's pretty good for the time, honestly.
yeah.
But anyway, like it does seem like he turns on Trickster, and Trickster's last trick is he opens the door of Kimberly's room and Frank Langella, the cop, is there with a gun waiting. And yeah, I mean, if you want to get into the ending of this movie, I mean, essentially, it's all a dream. And
No, 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 no. It's Jumanji.
explain.
He beat the
It's
game. He did the last disc and beat the game.
yeah,
But he's
yeah,
there at
yeah,
the end. He's
And what
there at the
happens when
end,
you
though.
beat the game? Everything goes back to the beginning of the
yeah.
game.
He did, yeah, yeah. But essentially, the game was a dream.
It was
Mhm.
all a game. That
It was a
was the
game and he
game.
won and it goes back.
Eric, it's like that Rick and Morty episode where he like plays that whole life in that video game or whatever, and then he comes out and
Roy,
it's yeah, Roy, the video game. It's kind of like that. Like the whole movie was the video game. I don't think it was a dream. Do you think it was a dream, Joe?
I think he played the game, beat it to completion, and then starts at the beginning again.
No,
And that's
I,
what
I,
it
I
is.
think that is true, but I think the game is a dream. I think
Oh.
the game is like
Oh,
if you
okay.
listen to like when he beats the game at the end, there's like instructions, like there's trick. It's essentially Trickster's voice telling him how to. They're walking him through breathing exercises, and the voice is saying like, "You've just experienced brain scan, which is not unlike hypnosis." So it's a game, but it's a dream.
Interesting. Okay, I almost wish it was like even the game was a dream now because now I'm thinking about it. So every single person that orders this game, this just happens to them. Like this would be all over the news.
Yeah. Well, Kyle does say like a few minutes later. So Kyle knocks on his door and it's like, dude, there's a party next door. And he does say, I hope you didn't order brain scan because it drove some kid
Oh, you're
crazy.
right. Yeah.
It gave some kid an
Yeah.
aneurysm, he
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it gets confusing, and then we'll finish this scene, and then at the end, there's something that even makes it more confusing. But
yeah,
okay, so that I guess clears that up a little bit. But yeah, so they go to the party. Kyle's like, "Dude, I'm alive. Like, let's go." So
yeah,
they go over to the party. Kyle starts hitting on like Doug's older sister. Like, literally, that actress looks exactly. Remember Doug, the show from the '90s? And Eric,
yeah,
dude,
yeah, yeah. I know that.
Not
I know
Patty,
that.
but his
his
sister.
sister,
Yeah.
dude, that act.
Debbie or Dee, what was it?
I
Yeah, keep
can't
going.
remember, but it was like that '90s kind of like
Oh, there's some
angsty.
great fashion in this movie.
Yeah, and the music's great.
Yeah,
But this scene, I
Judy. It was his sister
Judy.
Judy from Doug. Yep,
Yeah.
100% Alec. Yep.
But dude, this scene, I mean, it's so insane. He goes into Kimberly's bedroom and he's just like, "Hey, like, I had a dream that you liked me, basically, and I want to shoot my shot." And she's just like, "Maybe another time," like sort of
yeah.
thing. How dumb and dumber is
Oh,
that scene, dude?
if you didn't say it, I was gonna say it, and
Dude.
it's the same year as Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. Yeah, so didn't
So you're
copy it.
saying there's a chance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
So I
Dude.
take back what I say about him being like the coolest character because this scene has always been painful. Like he asks her, he says, "Please, will you go out with me?"
Yeah, and she's just like, it's not a good time. But
Yeah, yeah,
here's the thing I don't understand. Why? I thought she liked him because she's taking pictures of him.
yeah,
She's like doing the voyeuristic thing, like knowing he's filming her. Also gets her his homework when he's
yeah.
sick and brings it over there. So I'm like, she does
And
like him.
and in like 5 seconds after the moment we're talking about, he sees that she's been taking pictures of him.
Yeah. And
So
kisses him. She kisses him right
yeah,
on the
yeah,
lips.
yeah.
So it's like,
I think
what is
maybe
happening?
I
but
think
that
maybe
was
they
during
just
the game though.
No, she
Must have
kissed him
been.
on the lips the
Yeah,
second right after she said no to him. She's like,
yeah,
You're
yeah,
no,
right. You're
but
right. But a
yeah.
lot of the
I
stuff where she visits him with like the Hell Club or whatever, the horror
yeah.
club, that was all dream. That
I
didn't
mean,
happen.
everything after he put in the first disc
okay.
to
But
this moment.
still,
Yeah.
as you were saying, Joe, the pictures. So I mean,
Yeah.
unless she's trying to catch him filming him, so she's gonna be
To
like,
go
I
to the
have
police.
evidence that this guy does this.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
double con this creep.
maybe,
Like
it's too much of a happy ending if all of a sudden now he's getting the girl and like
it's a
he
lot
got,
like Evil Dead Army of
like,
Darkness too at the end when he comes out of Army of Darkness, he's a totally different person or Evil Dead, you
mhm.
know? We've
Yeah.
said that before, Alec. It's just like he went from this like little, whiny kid to like, I want to date you. You know what I mean?
It's just like baby steps. Like, he's going over to the party, he's shooting his shot. Like this is his arc. He's trying, for her to like be like, yeah, we're a thing now. Maybe that's just too much, you
I
know?
know this kid's like, I don't know. I just felt bad for him for most of the movie, so I was like, let him
Yeah.
have this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
he doesn't
he's
get
like happy. He's happy that there's a chance, just like Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber. He's
it.
like, so maybe, he
Yeah.
says, and she's like, yeah, maybe.
Oh
And
my
he's
God.
happy with that. And yeah, like, I mean, I'm assuming he's never asked anybody out before. So he's, that's
But
good enough for him.
His friend Kyle also asked that other girl out, and it seemed like that worked. There's that.
Yeah,
That seemed
Kyle.
like that one
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah. Yeah. Kyle. I mean, yeah, I get the impression Kyle, it wasn't as withdrawn as Michael, you know?
Yeah, he's like, you
Yeah.
look bitchin'. It was like, oh, cringe city. I love it
Yeah,
though.
he does really good really
He's like, I'm
quickly.
28, like bitching, like I don't know, it was great.
Then the last scene, this is a scene that makes it even more confusing. But Kyle's earlier in the movie, he's told Edward Furlong is told by his teacher, "I need to approve every horror movie or game or anything that you're going to do in this club. I need to do it first." So Edward Furlong's like, "Okay." So he's like, "I'm going to bring this teacher brain scan," and the teacher sits down and is like, "Brain scan? What is this garbage? I'll play it."
Yeah.
And then, of course, like, how's this guy gonna play a video game? I'm sure he doesn't have it, but whatever. But then Trickster is there. So you're like, wait, is because Edward Furlong leaves and then Trickster's there. So we're like, okay,
Yeah.
what is happening? Is this his dream? Is this a game? Is this just for the audience? Like, I don't know what the hell is happening
No,
anymore.
yeah.
It's Jumanji, man.
Eric,
He's
it's not
giving him
Jumanji.
Jumanji. He's giving him Jumanji.
I don't
I
think,
haven't seen Jumanji in 30 years, but
yeah, it's
yeah,
not.
to me there's no explaining it other than in some kind of sci-fi technology way. He has a piece of Trickster with him at all times now. I don't know.
It's weird though,
To me, it's
because
just a little wink,
You know another
a
thing I
little
want to bring up
button.
too from the beginning of the movie, his dad calls him and leaves a voicemail, and his dad was away on business or something, but he
yeah.
said, I have a lot of tech stuff I'm working on. Maybe his dad was behind it all the whole time.
Mm.
I
Theory
mean,
City.
Brain
Theory
Scan
City.
2
But
coming in 2027.
I'd be all in.
We'll find out.
There's a fan base for it. I'm sure
Yeah.
Wait,
people would see it.
but we didn't even get to the last scene.
Ah,
I thought it was over, and then all of a sudden Trickster's like, "Aren't you forgetting something?" And then the
yeah.
screen breaks, and you're like, "What's gonna happen?" And
Before Marvel, yeah, Brain did the post-credit scene, and
Like
I remember
mid credit. It was
mid-credit,
mid credit.
mid-credit. I remember literally me and my grandfather walking out of the theater and like stopping in our tracks, like, oh, we're getting something else, and it's
Time out. I
totally
missed it. I missed it. I was in the bathroom. I
you
came back
miss
and
nothing.
I know that's what I felt, and I didn't rewind it.
Yeah,
But what happened?
go
it's
ahead,
the
Joe.
the German Shepherd from earlier when Michael's burying the foot. Um, he just runs onto the screen and has the foot in his mouth. I don't know why
Now
they
that
thought.
makes no sense.
Yeah, I
If
don't
the
know why the filmmakers were like, "Oh, this is gonna kill. We need to put this in the credits while people are walking out."
Yeah, yeah.
So weird.
But I guess before that, that's the plot. That's Brain Scan. But the music, not the soundtrack, which was also good, but the
Mm,
score, I
mm,
actually liked it. Like I
yeah.
know it's 90s like TV synth, but
Hmm.
kind of reminded me of Twin Peaks a little bit. I
Hmm.
kind of dug it. Like I really
it,
did.
it it was literally Alec. Down, Don't, don't, don't.
Yeah,
That was it.
Yeah.
I know, and I
That was it.
liked
That's
it.
all it needed to be.
It's
Yeah,
a haunting little score. Like that theme, that main theme is
yeah.
really good. I like that. And the soundtrack itself, I'm shocked I never owned the soundtrack, but it's pretty legit. Like the it has like Tad and Mudhoney who were like kind of grunge pioneers. And obviously it has White Zombie. He didn't
Mhm.
go. It's not Rob Zombie yet. He still had his band, and I feel like in the '90s, if you were putting together a horror soundtrack, you had to approach Rob Zombie and ask him if he wanted to. It was like contractual. He was on all horror soundtracks back then. But yeah, this is a pretty good soundtrack, and I like the score too.
Yeah.
Last thing too. There's one Terminator 2 reference. Did anyone catch it?
No.
Y- y- th-
Kyle says, "Would you think it was Axl Rose?" Because
Oh,
that's in Terminator 2 with the "You Could Be Mine," and
I
like even
was.
Edward Furlong's character is like, "Dude, don't do
Yeah.
that." Like,
I was gonna say when he first dials brain scan, he like leaves a message. He thinks he's talking to an answering machine, and he said, "Oh, sorry, I thought I was talking to a machine," which is
kind of
Mm.
close too. That's a
yeah.
good
I
one. I
it made
count
me
that.
think of Terminator. But
Yeah.
did you guys think I was watching some of the special features and they said Trickster, his look was very inspired by Keith Richards, which is now that I'm thinking about it, pretty obvious. But I was thinking Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, and there
Hmm.
are so many little Aerosmith references or little, like each one of them, all three bedrooms we see in the movie has Aerosmith like posters. I don't know who was a huge Aerosmith fan, but I was getting Steve Tyler vibes from Trickster.
Yeah, I know. I can't really put my finger on who he reminded me of, but I guess like almost
I,
like Butthead. He had like Butthead's haircut, kind of.
I mean, if someone's like, "Dude, we based this off of you," he'd be like, "What? Like the Steven Tyler? Like this is supposed to be me?" I don't know. I don't know if I'd be proud of that,
Yeah.
but
It's funny though
maybe.
too, thinking about like the technology, like when I was a kid, stuff like this, I was like, this is so cool, like video calls and like an assistant that can talk to you. And now I hate all that stuff. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
God, FaceTime and like fucking Siri and stuff.
Massa
Like
is busy. Massa
I
is busy.
dude, but back then I was like, man, that looks so fun. And now we have that stuff and it's the
Yeah.
devil.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
man. Well, you guys have any last minute thoughts on brain scan?
No.
I think my brain has been thoroughly scanned.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, thank you very much for recommending it. I liked it. I feel like it was a not as good Videodrome. I don't know. I love
I think
video.
that I think that's fair. Yeah, I have no idea who John Flynn, this director, is. I actually
Yeah.
meant to look him up before we got on, but yeah, I don't think this is up there with Cronenberg.
But it's not bad. I think it's
Yeah,
worth seeing if you, especially if you like 90s, I guess not body horror, but technological horror movies. I don't know.
yeah,
It's worth checking out. It definitely is.
There's a fan base. There's a fan base to this movie, big time. If you watch any video on YouTube, comments are just like, "I love this movie. This is my favorite. Like this brings me back." It's cool to see that exists, though.
Yeah. Well, Eric, you have a little surprise for everybody, don't
Yes,
you?
we're gonna try this. This is one of our only video podcasts, and on the conversation of or the topic of 1994 movies like Dumb and Dumber, we're gonna blind rank some movies with our guest Joe Testa. So blind ranking, we're gonna
okay.
blind rank 1994 horror movies, and I'll start with this. If you look up 1994 horror movies, there's not a lot of good ones,
Yeah, I'm trying to
but
think.
I'll start with Brain Scan. Where would you rank that 1 out of 5? The
Three.
movie we just talked 3.
I know the movie.
Our Brain Scan at 3. Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Ooh, of course.
I did that to you.
I'm gonna go one.
Whoa.
I'm trying to
In
think. Oh shit! In the Mouth of Madness.
in
Okay.
the Mouth of Madness. No, one is Wes Craven.
Yeah.
Brain Scan at
No.
3. In the
Fair
Mouth of
enough.
Madness.
Oh man, two, two.
2.
Yep.
Interview with a Vampire.
Oh shit! I didn't realize '94 it was some bangers that year. Damn it! Interview with the Vampire is a better movie than Brain Scan, but I guess it's got to go at four. Was 5.
The Crow.
I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
It's like his favorite movie. That hurts. I did that to you, Joe. I did that to you. I'm
No,
sorry.
I should have known. I should have known.
That's the best blind ranking I've ever heard.
You said 99 in 1994. Literally, my mind went blank. I have no idea why. I mean, I saw every one of those movies in theaters.
Yeah, dude.
That's
That's amazing.
Oh,
literally
Joe.
my ranking would probably be opposite.
And we're bringing
Awesome.
all the stops tonight, Alec. What do we got next?
This is the surprise I thought you were going to show. This is the wheel.
It's also come to physical form finally after being a digital thing for so long. Look at it in all its glory.
And it's spooky. It's like a 5-year-old did the letters.
It's definitely 5-year-old handwriting, that's for sure. All right, let's just spin it. What does this say? We got sustenance.
Substance.
Substance. My handwriting's so bad.
You
My
can't even
handwriting's
read
so
your
bad.
own handwriting.
Substance. I was like looking at it like from here. Substance. Let's go.
Substance.
Do we have a guess for that?
I don't think so. I'll double check the spreadsheet, but I don't think
It's
we
a
did.
new movie. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, Demi Moore, little body horror. But Joe, dude, thank you so much, and for your first video. Finally, people can see your face after 5 years. This is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to be back, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll get you on again soon. And yeah, thank you everybody for listening into our discussion on Branscan. And we will see you next week with Substance. The Substance or Substance?
I think it's just substance.
All right.
According to what I wrote. All right.
Woo!